The sun dipped low over the jagged skyline of Riverton, a sprawling industrial city nestled between steel-gray mountains and a restless river. It was April 4, 2025, and the air carried the faint tang of diesel and damp earth. Behind the wheel of a modest silver sedan, Amara Jackson navigated the winding backroads leading into town. Her hands rested steady on the steering wheel, though her mind churned with a quiet storm of anticipation. Today was no ordinary day. It marked the culmination of years of sacrifice, a new beginning as Riverton's chief of police. At 38, Amara was a woman forged in the fires of adversity, her resolve as unyielding as the mountains framing the horizon. Riverton wasn't a place that welcomed change easily. Known for its gritty charm and a police force steeped in tradition, the city had a reputation for resisting outsiders, especially someone like Amara. A black woman stepping into the highest rank of law enforcement was unheard of here, and the whispers of dissent had already reached her ears through back channels. She'd seen the reports, a department plagued by outdated practices, cliques of officers who clung to power, and a community fractured by mistrust. Amara wasn't naive, she knew the road ahead would be treacherous. But she'd never been one to shy away from a challenge. Her journey to this moment had been anything but conventional. Raised in a small town where opportunities were scarce, Amara had clawed her way up through sheer determination. She'd started as a dispatcher, then a patrol officer, enduring late-night shifts and subtle slights from colleagues who doubted her place in uniform. Over the years, she'd earned a master's degree in criminal justice, spearheaded community outreach programs, and gained a reputation as a reformer in her previous precinct. When Riverton City Council, under pressure to address rising tensions, offered her the chief position, Amara saw it as both a calling and a crucible. As she rounded a bend, the road stretched out before her, flanked by towering pines and the occasional rusted sign. She wore a crisp navy blazer over a white blouse, her badge tucked safely in her bag. She'd chosen to drive herself into town rather than arrive with fanfare, no escort, no ceremony. Amara wanted her first impression to be one of humility, not entitlement. The dashboard clock read 6:47 p.m. She was less than an hour from the station, where she'd address her new team the following morning. Then, a flicker of red and blue pierced the twilight. Amara's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. A patrol car loomed behind her, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Her stomach tightened, a reflex born from years of navigating the world as a black woman. She signaled and eased onto the shoulder, the gravel crunching beneath her tires. The patrol car pulled up close, its engine idling with a low growl. Two officers stepped out, their silhouettes sharp against the fading light. The first was a stocky man in his 50s, his face weathered and stern, a silver badge glinting on his chest. Officer Dale Carver had spent decades in Riverton's force, a man who thrived on routine and bristled at change. Beside him was a younger officer, Tim Reese, lean and wiry, his posture tense with the eagerness of someone still proving himself. They approached her window with the confidence of men accustomed to being obeyed. "Evening, ma'am," Carver said, his voice gruff as he peered into the car. "License and registration." Amara lowered her window, her expression calm but her senses sharp. "Good evening, officers," she replied, reaching for her documents. She handed them over without hesitation, her movements deliberate. Carver took the papers, his eyes flicking over her license before settling on her face. Reese lingered a step behind, his hand resting casually on his belt. "What's your business out here?" Reese asked, his tone clipped. "This isn't exactly a tourist route." "I'm heading into Riverton," Amara said evenly. "Work-related." Carver raised an eyebrow, flipping her license between his fingers. "Work, huh? What kind of work brings you out this way at dusk?" Amara met his gaze, her voice steady. "I'll be starting a new position tomorrow. That's all you need to know for now." Reese smirked, exchanging a glance with Carver. "A new position," he echoed, skepticism lacing his words. "You got a name for this job, or is it a secret?" Amara's patience flickered, but she held her composure. She'd faced this dance before, questions laced with doubt, authority wielded like a blunt instrument. "It's no secret," she said. "But I'd rather not spoil the surprise." Carver grunted, handing her documents back. "Well, you're clear. No warrants, no issues. But we've had reports of suspicious vehicles on this stretch lately. Can't be too careful." "Suspicious vehicles?" Amara repeated, her tone neutral but pointed. "Anything specific I should be aware of?" "Just routine," Carver said, stepping back. "Drive safe, ma'am." As they returned to their cruiser, Amara watched them in her mirror. Routine. She knew better. This wasn't about safety, it was a flex, a test of who held the upper hand. She started her engine and pulled back onto the road, her mind racing. She could have revealed her identity then and there, turned the encounter on its head. But something told her to wait. Tomorrow, they'd learn the truth. For now, she'd let them think they'd won. The city lights of Riverton glimmered ahead as Amara drove on, her resolve hardening. This stop was a preview of the challenges she'd face, officers set in their ways, quick to judge, slow to adapt. But Amara wasn't here to bend to their expectations. She was here to rewrite them. The next morning, Riverton's police station buzzed with a restless energy. The building was a squat, concrete relic of the 1970s, its walls lined with faded plaques and photos of past chiefs, all white, all male. Officers milled about the bullpen, sipping coffee and trading grumbles about the new chief they'd yet to meet. Rumors had swirled for weeks. She was an outsider, a reformer, a woman. To men like Carver and Reese, she was an intrusion. Amara arrived at 8 a.m. Her blazer swapped for a tailored suit that exuded quiet authority. She carried a leather satchel and a steely determination. The desk sergeant, a wiry woman named Clara, greeted her with a nod and ushered her to the briefing room. Inside, 30 officers sat in rows, their chatter fading as Amara stepped to the podium. "Good morning," she began, her voice clear and commanding. "I'm Amara Jackson, your new chief of police." A ripple of surprise coursed through the room. Carver, seated near the front, stiffened, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his mouth. Reese, slouched beside him, blinked rapidly, his jaw tightening. Amara's eyes swept over them, lingering just long enough to register their shock. She'd seen their faces the night before, felt their scrutiny. Now, the tables had turned. "I know change isn't easy," she continued. "Riverton's had its share of struggles, crime rates climbing, trust eroding. I'm here to address that. But I can't do it alone. This department needs every one of you to step up." She paused, letting her words settle. "Last night, I drove into town. A routine stop, I was told. 2 officers pulled me over, asked questions that didn't need asking. They didn't know who I was, and that's fine. But it's what they assumed that matters. They saw a black woman alone on a back road and decided I didn't belong." The room grew still. Carver shifted uncomfortably, his face reddening. Reese stared at his boots, avoiding her gaze. "That stop wasn't about safety," Amara said. "It was about control. And it's the kind of thing that's driven a wedge between this department and the people we serve. Starting today, that changes." She outlined her vision: transparency, accountability, community engagement. She spoke of training programs, body cameras, and a zero-tolerance policy for bias. Some officers nodded, others crossed their arms, skepticism etched into their postures. Amara didn't flinch. She'd expected resistance, it was the first hurdle, not the last. After the briefing, she called Carver and Reese to her office. The room was sparse, its walls bare save for a single framed photo of her late father, a factory worker who'd taught her the value of perseverance. The officers stood stiffly as she leaned against her desk. "Explain last night," she said, her tone even but firm. Carver cleared his throat. "Chief, it was just protocol. We've had issues with smuggling routes." "Protocol doesn't include profiling," Amara cut in. "You didn't stop me because of smuggling. You stopped me because of who you thought I was, or wasn't." Reese fidgeted. "We didn't mean any disrespect, ma'am." "Then prove it," she said. "You're both on desk duty until I see your reports from the last 6 months. I want to know how you operate. And after that, you'll shadow me. If you're willing to learn, you'll keep your badges." They left in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. Amara knew this was just the beginning. She'd rattled the cage, now she had to tame the beasts within it. Weeks passed, and Amara threw herself into the fire of leadership. She walked the beat with rookies, met with community leaders, and reviewed years of complaints against the department. Carver and Reese, begrudgingly, became her shadows. At first, they resisted, Carver with gruff defiance, Reese with sullen compliance. But Amara didn't relent. She made them sit in on town halls where residents aired grievances, stops without cause, harassment, indifference. She forced them to see the human cost of their actions. One rainy afternoon, a call came in, a domestic dispute in Riverton's east side, a neighborhood long neglected by the force. Amara took Carver and Reese with her. The scene was tense. A young mother, Tasha, stood outside her apartment, her voice trembling as she described her ex's threats. Officers had ignored her calls before, she said, assuming it was just drama. Amara listened, then turned to Carver. "Handle it. No assumptions, just the facts." Carver hesitated, then approached Tasha with a notepad, asking questions instead of dismissing her. Reese secured the perimeter, his usual bravado replaced by focus. When they arrested the ex, an armed repeat offender, Amara saw a flicker of pride in their eyes. It was small, but it was progress. Back at the station, she gathered the team. "This is what we're here for," she said. "Not power. Not control. Trust. Tasha's not the enemy, she's why we wear the badge." The shift wasn't instant, but it began. Officers started asking questions, not just issuing orders. Complaints dropped. Amara became a fixture in Riverton, her presence a quiet force reshaping the department's soul. By summer, Riverton felt different. Amara stood at a ribbon cutting for a new community center, flanked by officers who'd once doubted her. Carver, now a reluctant ally, had revamped training protocols. Reese, softer around the edges, mentored rookies with a patience he'd never shown before. The city wasn't perfect, prejudice lingered, old habits died hard, but Amara had planted seeds of hope. One evening, driving that same back road, she smiled. No lights flashed in her mirror. She'd turned a stop into a story, a challenge into a triumph. Riverton was hers now, not to rule, but to lead. And in that leadership, she'd found her truest strength.